sitting in there. If someone said, sell that house...
Hang on.
That lovely house you're sitting in there. If someone said, sell that house because people need the money, would you be...
What happens when right-wing commentators rely on emotional hysteria and manufactured outrage to attack sound economic policy? You get the exact spectacle that unfolded on broadcaster Carole Malone's show. Malone tag-teamed with her panel to attack a progressive guest over Labour's proposed economic reforms, specifically framing vital changes to pension tax reliefs and fiscal policy as a pension raid on hardworking Britons. Instead of engaging with the fiscal realities of closing tax loopholes to fund public services and stabilize the economy, Malone resorted to shouting over her guest, using apocalyptic rhetoric, and shutting down any nuanced breakdown of the numbers. It is a textbook example of how right-wing media outlets operate when cornered by economic facts, weaponize sensationalism, frame necessary tax fairness as a personal theft, and shout down anyone defending fiscal responsibility. Let's look at how this intense broadcast exchange played out. This video breaks down the key moments, the arguments, and the questions everyone is talking about. Watch until the end and tell me what you think in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.
The speculation about Burnham and what he does, because he could be Prime Minister within 3 weeks. His advisors say, start by scrapping the pension triple lock. This guarantees the state pension either rises by the rate of inflation, by average earnings, or by 2.5%, whichever is highest. That's why it's called the triple lock. It costs a lot. It's costing more and more every year. Now, we couldn't scrap it now for the likes of the three of us because you're near retirement, but we could scrap it for people under 40 and hope they don't notice.
You know what? This Labour Party is beyond a joke now. They saw what happened when they cut the 300 quid pensioners' winter fuel allowance. It caused uproar. It was the nail in their coffin in the first 3 months of the reign, and they have never recovered from it. And more importantly, the people who they were going to cut that benefit from will never vote for them again. If they do this, I think people have forgotten. I think people have forgotten what the triple lock was introduced for. It was introduced in 2011, and it was because there were tens of thousands of pensioners living in abject poverty in this country. And it was designed to reverse the long-term decline of the real value of the state pension and to allow pensioners to live the kind of quality of life
and it worked.
that the rest of us do. And it worked. But now in this country, we still have nearly 2 million people who have nothing but the state pension. We have millions more who are on tiny pensions that don't make a damn bit of difference and which cost them in tax. We keep on talking about millionaire pensioners. There really aren't many of them.
I'm guessing from what you're saying.
Completely keep it. Any party that attacks and takes money from the most vulnerable in society deserves to be kicked into obscurity.
All right, well,
But the left-wing media establishment always has an excuse ready when they want to raid your wallet. Watch this progressive panellist set out her worldview, trying to justify the incoming cuts by claiming that pensioners are secretly millionaires. Notice how quickly that argument collapses when faced with basic reality.
It needs to be reassessed. It cannot continue in the way it has been designed. When it was designed by the Conservative Party, it was not costed to be anywhere near the 15.5 billion it's going to cost by 2030. And just to make some points really clear, no one here is talking about taking money from those that are needy. But the pension isn't means tested. It is just the state pension isn't means tested. Everyone is eligible to it. And we know that 25% of 55 to 64-year-olds are millionaires. By far the largest proportion of millionaires in the United Kingdom are from that group.
Carole doesn't
So it's not having that.
That's true. Carole, that's true.
They might live in a house that's worth £1 million. They are not millionaires. They don't have that kind of money.
That's what a million. You just
I don't know. It is not.
That's what a millionaire is.
No, it is not. A millionaire is actually valid in this argument. If you live in a house, or if you have assets, or if you have a buy-to-let, that's your prerogative. That's your business.
The lovely house we can see you sitting in there. If someone said, sell that house.
Hang on.
That lovely house you're sitting in there. If someone said, sell that house because people need the money, would you be happy? You would not. You can't tell someone who's lived in a house for years, who's paid that house, to shift out because it suits people.
I don't appreciate you attacking me or my home. I'm
not
just
attacking
coming
your
on
home
to present my views, and you're telling me that I should sell my house, Carole. But what
did I
would
say
say
that? No, you didn't hear.
Hang on, Carole.
No,
Carole, let's hear what
she didn't. She just misrepresented.
I don't appreciate it. So just to be really clear, the point that I'm trying to make is, for example, if you go into the care system as a pensioner at the moment and you don't have enough money to pay for the care the state gives you, the state will force you to sell assets in order to cover the cost of care. That is already part of the British government system. Okay. What we are saying is, for my generation and people like me, there has to be a more reasonable way of dispensing the pension that isn't going to cost working people their livelihoods.
All right, well, it's very generous of you to argue against your...
What we just witnessed in this broadcast is a textbook demonstration of how right-wing media outlets manufacture bad faith economic panics to protect wealthy interests at the expense of public services. Carole Malone's aggressive, hysterical attack on Labour's proposed fiscal reforms is not genuine concern for ordinary retirees. It is a calculated propaganda effort designed to reframe necessary, equitable tax adjustments as an illegitimate pension raid. First, look at the intellectual dishonesty at the core of Malone's argument. When progressive commentators defend closing tax loopholes or adjusting tax reliefs on high-value pensions, they are advocating for fiscal responsibility, ensuring that the top tier of earners pays their fair share to rebuild broken public infrastructure, support the NHS, and fix national balance sheets depleted by 14 years of conservative austerity. Yet, right-wing commentators like Malone deliberately collapse all nuance. They conflate tax adjustments aimed at wealthy wealth accumulation vehicles with a blanket assault on everyday working-class retirees. This is a deliberate tactic to weaponize fear among vulnerable populations who rely on fixed incomes, manipulating them into opposing policies that actually protect public goods. Second, consider the performative dynamic of these panel segments. Broadcasters like Carole Malone construct these setups to give the illusion of a debate, while ensuring the progressive guest is subjected to a constant barrage of interruptions, overtalk, and emotional grandstanding. Whenever the guest attempts to bring actual economic data, fiscal realities, or structural context into the discussion, Malone shifts to apocalyptic rhetoric, claiming people will be left penniless or that the state is stealing hard-earned money. By reducing complex fiscal policy to simplistic, emotive soundbites, right-wing media insulates its audience from understanding how tax expenditures actually work and who primarily benefits from existing tax breaks. Furthermore, this reaction exposes the deep hypocrisy of conservative economic commentary. For over a decade, right-wing pundits championed harsh austerity measures, real-term wage cuts, and underfunding of essential services in the name of fiscal discipline. Yet the moment a Labour government proposes balancing the books through fair taxation on wealth and high-tier pension concessions, that same media establishment suddenly discovers moral outrage over state intervention. It proves that their commitment has never been to economic stability or protecting the public. It has always been about shielding wealth from contributing to the collective good. As progressives, we must continuously dismantle these bad faith narratives. Rebuilding a country requires honest fiscal policy, closing unjust tax loopholes, and ensuring those with the broadest shoulders bear a proportionate share of the burden. Carole Malone's shouting match isn't a victory of logic. It is the panic of a right-wing media apparatus that knows its trickle-down economic model has completely failed, leaving them with nothing to offer the public except manufactured outrage and fear.